Hey guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with another video, and today's video is actually going to be about a play. So I have been making videos about classics and other books that I just enjoy reading, but I haven't made any videos about plays recently. And I have a few plays that I've read and that I like a lot, and some of them that I've just read that I'm glad I read. Does that make sense? It's like when you read a book and you're like, well, I don't really feel the need to read that again, but I'm glad I read it. Kind of how I feel about some of the plays that I've read. And I wanted to talk about one of them today. So before we get into that, I just wanted to say if you have subscribed to my channel recently, thank you so much. I always say it means so much to me, and I mean it. I mean it 100%. Every single one of you that I see subscribed to my channel is just puts a smile on my face. I've recently passed 400 subscribers, which is so wild. I remember when I was like, oh, I'll probably get around like 10 and maybe just like have some people come around and check my channel. But 400 is just mind-blowing. So thank you all so much. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing, completely free, and you will get notified when I upload new videos, which I do tend to do Tuesdays and Fridays. So go ahead and do that and you'll get notified. If you end up enjoying this video, please like, comment, and share this video with anyone that you think might also enjoy it. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about the play that we're going to be discussing today. So I picked this play up around a year ago. I went to a used bookstore and they had a lot of plays, and I only bought like a few. Like I probably could have got a lot more, but I only got a few. And so this was one of those, and I read it pretty recently after I got it. So I got it like in October last year, and I read it in like November, December. So the play we're going to be talking about today is called Jack and Jill. It's a little hard to read, so it does say Jack and Jill, and then below that it says A Romance. So this is a play by a playwright named Jane Martin. Now, it turns out that Jane Martin is actually a pseudonym completely. It's a Jane Martin in themselves is not an actual person. It's a fake identity, basically. And to this day, the actual identity of this playwright remains kind of a mystery. So we don't actually know the person who wrote the plays by Jane Martin, but there are several. And I actually did read another one by Jane Martin, which I probably will make another video about. But I wanted to talk about this one first because I think I enjoyed this one a lot more than the other one. So this, obviously, when we talk about plays, or when I've talked about them before, reading plays is definitely different than reading novels or comic books or any other kind of work of literature, because it's a conversation, it's a dialogue the entire time, and so it's just structured differently, but still valuable to read and to go see. So if you ever read a play and hey, you hear like your local theater is putting on a production of that play, you should go check it out. Live theater is one of the most stimulating experiences you can give yourself, and I love participating in it, and I love going to see it because it's just one of those human experiences that you just can't get from reading something or watching a movie or filmed version of it. So if you do end up reading plays, or if you end up just seeing that there's plays being put on in your area at your local theaters, please go watch them. Mostly for your benefit, of course, is for the theater and the actors and everyone else's benefit who works there as well. But it's also for your benefit too. There's something about live theater and the connection that it brings between the performers and the people that is just a really special connection. So I'm going to get off that soapbox for now and go into why I liked reading this play and a little bit about what it's about. So this, like it said, it's a romance. And is it really like reading a romantic novel? Absolutely not. It's really about two people who find their person, and the play just acts out what it's like to go through the trials and tribulations and highs and lows of a relationship after you've found your person, and what those conversations might be like. And it's a comedy. It's described when you look it up as a dramatic comedy. So there are some points that are funny and some points that are incredibly profound. So you get a little bit of both. But Jack and Jill, it's obviously those names are like in the nursery rhyme, just generic names. The characters in this play are not necessarily their own individual specific characters. They're more like representations of everyone who enters a relationship. And they're the only two characters in this play. It's literally just an entire play that surrounds the daily conversations between these two people as they enter a relationship, deal with being in a relationship, some kind of break up-ish, and then get back together. And yeah, it's one of those works of literature that's like, here's a representation of the human experience. You know, there's nothing super metaphorical, there's nothing super specific. It's just like, here is a representation. And I liked that. I thought it was incredibly telling. You read the dialogue in this play between the two characters, and this was written in the 90s and first performed in Kentucky in the US. And to this day, like, you read the dialogue going on between these characters and it's as if it could happen today. You know, I mentioned that I think about the novel Little Women. You know, there was something about the human experience that Louisa May Alcott just understood and was able to put into her novel. And that's, in a similar sense, what goes on with this play. It's, here's the human experience, and it's just very true to how people speak and how they react and how they get defensive and how they get tired of each other or how they feel unappreciated. And it's something that no matter what culture or area or era that you're from, you can relate to in a sense. And so that's why I enjoyed this. It's a representation of the human experience in love. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of what's in here, because with a play, it's a little bit different. There's not like an inside blurb of, oh, this is what this is about. But there are some descriptors that I think will be interesting if you want to have like a little bit of like a picture in your head of what this play might look like to read or to see performed. So there's, like I said, only two characters, Jack and Jill, but they do have what they refer to in the cast as changers. And so when you read this play, you'll read, oh, in the stage directions, the changers come on stage and change the scenery and change the actors into different costumes. So Jack and Jill, the actors, like the characters, don't really leave the stage very much. And a lot of the changes of costumes and scenery happens in the light of the stage and for the audience to see. So it's not like a normal play where it's like, oh, the scene ends, fade to black, everything changes, and then characters come on with different costumes. It's a little bit different. And I think that was a very good specific choice. Like I said, true to the human experience. We don't just go change clothes and then it just goes black. Like, we go change clothes. And so that happens on the stage as part of the human experience. And that just makes sense. Then there is a director's note that talks a little bit about the specifics of the music that will come on during some points and some of the blackouts. So the director's note here says, the stage never goes to black except at the ends of the acts. The music is classical, played by small ensembles, perhaps Beethoven in Act 1 and Mozart in Act 2. To give some sense of pace, Act 1 runs 48 minutes, Act 2 runs 52 minutes. The final scene is more painful than romantic. That's an interesting note. They are old warriors meeting on the road. And I think that was a very important note to put in there when you've read the play and you read how the ending goes. That makes a lot more sense to me than it ending up being a romance. like Casablanca or something. It's not romantic. It's not they meet again and they fly into each other's arms and all is well. It's like, no, they've been through life and it's not as romantic. I kind of want to read a little bit of the ground plan because this describes somewhat of the setting. Like in every play, there's going to be changes in scenery and costumes, in locations, and so this gives a little bit of an insight into what the play looks like. So when you're reading it, you kind of picture what's going on. So the setting is utterly simple, is the first sentence here. The floor is a deep, shiny maroon. It's a very specific color. At various times, we see 4 black chairs. There is a mustard-colored table, which I'm picturing mustard-colored table on top of a maroon floor, and I'm thinking like old-fashioned McDonald's from like the 80s. We see a deep green bed with white sheets and pillows with similarly covered bedside tables. On the tables are maroon lamps with white shades. The chairs also arrange as other pieces of furniture during the action. The play is performed by one man and one woman in their mid-30s. There are 4 stagehand/dressers who assist on and off stage costume changes, move furniture pieces, and deliver props. They are not characters, but regard the actors with grave interest as they go about their duties. They wear clothes in a brown tone that are in the same world as Jack and Jill. The time is now, so whenever it happens, whenever it takes place. But I love that they included what the role of the changers are, because technically they're more like stagehands and dressers than actual characters. But they do put in, I say they because we don't know who the playwright is. They do put in, they are not characters, but regard the actors with grave interest as they go about their duties. So they do have a purpose, a mission, a motivation, so to speak, and yet they're not characters. So I found that very, very interesting. It's a little different than I've really seen before. Like I haven't read every single play there is to read, or seen them all, but I've seen enough that this is different to me. I have been a dresser in shows, and I have had dressers in shows, and I want to say 90% of the time they're backstage. You know, they're there to help you once you exit the stage. They don't usually go on the stage. There are special circumstances that have them do that, but it's not the norm. So it's interesting to me, especially because they're not hidden. A lot of the time when dressers do go on stages, they are hidden because it kind of ruins the illusion of the world of the play that's happening. But they're very visible here, and they're almost part of the world and yet not part of the world, because it says they wear clothes in a brown tone that are in the same world as Jack and Jill. So clearly they're meant to blend in like they belong there. So it's interesting because they're almost like characters, but not characters. And I find that really, really interesting. So there are, I think it's 2 acts in this play. I think it's 2 acts. And super short read. I mean, come on. You read a play, it really doesn't take very long. And it was honestly an enjoyable play for me. I'm not going to say I'm going to go in and read this again. I don't necessarily go in and read plays over and over again unless I'm like choosing a monologue from it and reading it for a different reason. But I'm really happy I read this play. It was, like I said, there's just something about reading things about the human experience that almost feels satisfying, like reassuring. It just gives you a little bit the feeling of, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy, because there's a lot of dialogue that happens in this play and a lot of situations that this couple gets into that are awkward and a little funny or even a little bit stressful, and to me they're all relatable. Even if I haven't been in every single circumstance, they're still written to me in a way in the dialogue that just feels relatable. Like, for example, this is a little bit like NSFW, not necessarily super safe for kids, but there is a scene in the play that the 2 characters are about to engage in sex. Like they're not doing it, but they're about to. And the dialogue that happens between them is just something that's so relatable. There's a lot of ellipses at the ends of their words where it's like you can tell it's written for the characters to say a sentence and then to create that awkwardness. You know what I mean? And that's where the comedy comes out, because it's really funny. And they're talking about starting to possibly engage in sex, and they're like, oh, but did you want to? No, I was just doing this. Or no, but we can. And no, it's okay, we don't have to do this. I was just like that kind of dialogue where it's like awkward, because even if you feel comfortable with someone, there are just sometimes that there's going to be some awkwardness and some, honestly, comedy, natural human nature comedy, because there's just things in life that are just going to be funny. And moments like that where you're feeling vulnerable with another person, there's always going to be some sort of comedy element, or even just possibility for something funny to happen. Because when we're truly vulnerable, we're opening ourselves up to the possibility of being genuine. And instead of feeling embarrassed, it's just funny, you know? It's kind of one of the things that for me has helped kind of control my anxiety a little bit more just about life. It's easier to get through life when you have a good sense of humor, and the best way to have a good sense of humor is to be vulnerable. When you're vulnerable and authentic in what you're doing and how you're interacting with people, you're not putting up a defensive shield that would make you feel embarrassed, that would make you feel some form of shame one way or another. And that's where the comedy comes from. It's not this, I'm laughing at somebody. We're laughing together at this situation. So that's where the vulnerability comes into comedy. And so that's what was so entertaining for me about this play, is that it was authentically funny without pushing the reality of what it's like to actually interact with human beings. Because sometimes when you're writing, or I've never written, but sometimes when you're reading things, it feels like there are times when authors or playwrights can be writing something and they're trying to get to a specific destination, that it doesn't feel genuine how things are getting there, because they're only focused on the destination instead of the journey of the writing. And to me, I love reading things that feel like we're more focused on the moment now than what's going to happen at the end. And that's what makes it feel more genuine and more funny, because those moments are so funny. Like this, there's entire pages in this play where you're looking at the dialogue and it's just going back and forth, and almost all of it has ellipses after every single sentence. And so I'm just as I'm reading this, I'm just picturing the characters just kind of standing there like, oh, I mean, what do you think? I don't know. I think, and it's just, it feels more authentic in general. And that's something I liked about this play. And not that the other play by Jane Martin didn't have that. It was just, had some dark themes in it that were kind of hard to read personally. This didn't really have many dark themes. It was just, here, go on the journey with us of the relationship of Jack and Jill and what it's like as a representation once you find your person. That's really all I had to say about this play that we talked about today. If you're interested, definitely go read it. I think you can find it. This is from Samuel French, one of the publishers. You can order it online. It's very easy to find. There's also websites that are just for the playwright that you might be able to download the PDF pretty free. A lot of these plays tend to be in the public domain, so you can usually find a version of it out there. I got this for like a couple bucks, so it was not a lot of money for me to spend, but you can usually find it online somewhere. But if you're interested, I do recommend reading this play, and really just reading plays in general. It's such a different form of reading, and definitely going to see plays is also a really great thing to do. So I do recommend reading this and go see more plays. That's all for this week's video. I appreciate every single one of you who watch and interact with my videos. I love doing this, and I hope to keep doing this as long as possible. So thank you all so much for your support and just interacting with my channel. It really means the world to me. So thank you all so much, and I will see you all in the next video.